I do have the other videos posted too. Again, it's primarily doing voice, so keep that in mind. I'm going to make a video though, for like I did for the other one, that will kind of walk you through how to do this. Now, again, I'm showing you Thinkorswim. I'm relying on Thinkorswim. I'm not requiring you to do it to do this big assignment. So again, review what the assignment is that you're picking a, I would suspect, an equity, but you could also look for a particular bond offering if that was your thing. But you'd be finding a specific equity. Doesn't necessarily have to be on the U.S. stock exchange, it could be on the foreign exchanges. But you could do it in, the presentation for this could be in one of two ways. Either you could set it up where you do 5, 6, 7, 8 slides and talk about different aspects of the firm, with the conclusion being your recommendation, or you could create a single one-page document that organizes everything on it with your recommendation on the side. So in other words, you could set it up like, and again, we'll do a little bit more of this here. Analyze. Let's look at the worst performing railroad this year. CSX. Okay. So the one advantage of trying to learn at least a little bit or enough about Thinkorswim is that you can get these analyst reports pretty easily. If you have a subscription to Morningstar, those are probably the best kinds of analyst reports to get. Some of the libraries have them. I think like the public library has it. But okay, so let's say I had picked CSX as my corporation I was going to do. I need to create a one-year estimate of what the share price is going to be, just like you did for the economic report on the 3 major economic statistics. Now, what's different about this though is that you don't need to do the import into Excel, forecast, and give me a number, because kind of what you're doing here is you're trying to also read market sentiment, meaning you don't have to do a technical analysis where you generate a statistical regression that will estimate what the price is going to be in the year, or do a Monte Carlo analysis that will tell you what it's going to be in the year. You can do a fundamental analysis, meaning that you know enough about the firm and enough about market sentiment and the railroad industry to be able to say something meaningful about what's going on. And so here, in this case here, this might take you longer to make than a 4, 5, 6, or 7, 8 slide thing, but I should be able to get a sense from reading 8 slides of a rating, meaning do you have a buy, sell, or hold is your 3 standard kind of recommendations, but sometimes other analyst firms, like in this case, research team, has things like accumulate. I don't know what their other ratings would be here, but then what you would have here is some kind of chart of how the share price has been performing. Again, I could take the chart easily from Thinkorswim, but again, Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, great places where you can get, right, just do a screenshot on your computer. Don't do 10 years of share prices. Dude, I don't want to read 10 years of share prices. How CSX did 10 years ago is of no value to me. But in this case here, if I had a, it's like here about 1.5 years of data, where it would start to pick up trends. So in this picture here, you can see what they're doing here is they're saying these were our different recommendations at different periods of time. Look how accurate we are, 61%. 61% of the time we get it right, which is about as good as a heads or tails. A little bit better than that they get it right. But you see, right, that's again why you wouldn't want to just do technical analysis, because if you just try to predict the trend line and the blue line based on how the blue line has done in the past, you're not going to get a great number. You're going to need to do a little bit something more. And see, in this case here, all they did was that, and they only got it right 61% of the time. You can do that. I'm not stopping you from doing that. So if the favorite part of the Economic Outlook project for you was when you got to put things into Excel, then just do that. I mean, it'll make your life a lot easier. But, oh, so they say reduce, hold, and accumulate. That's their recommendations. But here's another way to structure it, where you don't try to make like ranges where you try to predict what the price is going to do, but you give a recommendation and then you tell us why you made the recommendation based on a fundamental analysis. And the way that you're going to do that, it would seem to me, would be, well, if you can read other people's analyst reports, you can obviously get good data from that, right? All these analysts are reading everyone's reports. So why don't you read what the others are doing, right? I mean, but the other way to do it would be this. So let's say I want to know more about CSX. Actually, what I should do? Well, no, I'll do this. Michelle, did you pick a firm that you want to do yet? No? Did anyone pick a firm that they want to do? Elijah, did you? There we go, Microsoft. MSFT. Okay. So what he would do is going to go into Microsoft. He's going to avoid all this stuff. He's going to avoid all this. He's going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And he's going to go to investors. So most of the web pages are going to have an investor guidance subpage to their website. Now, why would he do this? Because, well, he's going to see the CEO. He's going to see the annual report. Now, I want to disavow you of the value of the annual report. The annual report is like a firm putting out a PR piece, right? No PR piece that a firm puts out is ever going to say anything shitty about the company, right? It's always going to be like, this is the greatest company on earth. Why aren't you buying more of us? And that's all that the annual report's going to do. So if we looked at, well, let's just look at it. It's going to have like fantastic pictures. Everyone's going to be wearing a Microsoft shirt and like saving someone from a fire, right? It's going to have something like fantastic that, you know, okay, let's download it while I take a bite. This is a pretty good sound. Okay. This guy's got a Bluetooth on, even though he's sitting in his office. They're helping this family-owned restaurant in Japan forecast sales. But basically, it's going to say lots of great things that the firm is doing. And then they're going to throw in some numbers, which for some of you, dude, this is what gets you pumped about the day, right? See what's going on in revenue, see what's going on in income, see what's going on in assets, shareholder.
So I didn't lie about our revenue, but it went down from, I think it was 16 to 17.
Yep. Well, you know, but Microsoft is in this shift too, right? Where they're trying to get more money from cloud revenue as opposed to revenue from cloud services, just like how Amazon makes a big chunk of its money. But you don't want to be comfortable with this, because when I give you the grade, I'm going to obviously listen to your presentation, but nothing actually gives me greater joy than doing exactly the same research process into what you're looking at. So I will probably go and, I'm not fact checking you, but I'm learning more about the thing that you picked. So don't think I won't look, and I will, not because I don't trust you, but because I'm just that interested in things like this. One of you should pick Disney just to spite me. Right, but then I could start looking at all these things, and so this would be one thing you'd want to do. You'd go on their site, look at investor relations, but the annual report's not where you're going to get the most valuable things. the most valuable things to any shareholder doing anything is going to be their earnings calls, which happen 4 times a year. And my suggestion would be either read what went on, look at what went on. I guess they put it in a PowerPoint because it's Microsoft, dude. You want you to buy Microsoft. Or you can just look at the webcast and see it going on. Because what that is that is the analysts, the major shareholders, but primarily the analysts, listening to the corporate leadership telling them a story behind the numbers that they release on a quarterly basis. So what the earnings report does is it colors it, right? So then they'd say, dude, we saw revenue went down. You said it was this reason. Tell me more about that, right? So they can't just say revenue went down. It's because we're doing more stuff in the cloud, right? Because now I'm asking the question directly to the person. You have to actually give me an answer. And if you don't give me a convincing answer, what's happening here is that earnings are coming out either after market close or before the market opens. So earnings typically don't come out during the day because there's a lot of volatility once the earnings come out. So then the firm announces its earnings, meaning on a quarterly basis, how much is the firm earning per share? Before it announced it, the analysts all expected to hear a certain number. If they hear that number, the stock won't do anything. If they beat that number, then like analysts are like, wow, this company's actually doing really well, like Target did earlier this week, and then the share price shoots up like 10% this week. Or it misses the number, and then people get really concerned that the company is actually not doing as well as it should. But the worst thing that happened to a company is not that they missed the earnings, but that they missed the earnings and they don't respond well in this earnings call to the criticism directed to them. That they're cagey, that they don't give them a direct answer. I mean, for the most part, that's what did Enron in, right? Is that, yeah, it was a bad company with bad accounting, but also on their earnings call, people would ask them questions, and that actually got people to start thinking more and more about what the hell's going on in this company. You're only going to see this if you pick a U.S. company. Your life will be easier because all these things are regulated and all these things are required. If you go outside the U.S., most of the time they'll still do these things, but if you like pick,
Alibaba.
No, I was trying to think of. I had the magazine in my office. But if you pick something like the largest company in the country of Cameroon, I doubt, like, even if it's listed on shares, I doubt that they would do quarterly. What's in for, I don't know what the biggest company is in Cameroon, but I'm going to guess it's probably resource extraction, coal, something like that. Oh, now I'm curious. What is the biggest company in Cameroon? Big room. Afroland First Bank. In the capital. Yaoundé. I don't think they have here. No, they have a Wikipedia page. But, dude, for Cameroon, I've been there. Dude, that would be a fantastic looking building. I have been there just once, but.
What brought you to Cameroon?
Well, so in Pretoria, South Africa, there is a train station, as you know, as there is in most places here. But the train station in Pretoria, South Africa. Let's zoom in here. Right here. is on Shiting Street. And it's because, what was it, like my great-great-great-grandfather or something along those lines, co-founded the South African rail line. But that was back in the day when like the Dutch had colonized it. So it's not like my ancestors would be like generous, like do-gooders. They would be land stealers forming a railroad. But they got to have a street named after them for stealing enough to form a railroad. And the railroad actually did go pretty far. It doesn't exist anymore, the rail line. It's Dutch. Well, it's also German too, but it's also Dutch. Yeah. Let's see in Google here. So, yeah, I mean, long ago, they had some money, and the Dutch are also really good at earning money. They have one of the first exchanges. They gave the U.S. the money it needed to beat the British. But the rail line, which I don't actually, anyway, they had this like ceremony like, I don't know, like 10 years ago where they brought like all the people that were like descendants of the people that formed the railroad. And I was there. Dude, I didn't know anyone. It's not like I should have known anyone there, but I don't know what they thought the great idea was to bring everyone there. There are a lot of local people. Anyway, probably someone does. Someone probably does somewhere. No, there's well, this would probably be around that era. The biggest line went to Mozambique. So it went here through Bloemfontein, and Orange Free State was run by the British. But then Pretoria would be right. Well, it doesn't seem to.
Not great.
Yeah, Jayburg, yeah, right up here. Yeah. So this line here goes into Mozambique, and then the line was built. This maps in 1882. Then it was built, and it went up to Harare, Zimbabwe. But then when South Africa actually formed, and all these little colonies broke up in the like 1950s, 1960s. I guess that was hard times for the Shitings, the colonists from long ago. Yeah, the support group. Let's go back to what we should really care about. You'd want to listen to an earnings call. You'd want to read the annual report to color this up. Because then what you would do, let's say that I'm Elijah here and I'm doing Microsoft. Then what I would do, if I were him, and I was comfortable enough with Thinkorswim. Now, I don't have to be that comfortable to do what I'm doing here. All that I did was I downloaded it, which anyone can do, I'm hoping, or you can watch the other video. 60 days free access. I went to Analyze, tab kind of in the middle there by the time. Then I just typed in the ticker symbol. If you don't know the ticker symbol, look it up on Google, or even just start typing in the company. So I already knew what the ticker was, MSFT. I'm just going to click on it to make my life easy as soon as my thing will go here. Okay. But then, you know what I'll probably do? I'll probably read these 4 analyst reports as well to get a good idea of what's going on. Can't hurt. I'm going to take the chart here, right? So since Shiting's going to ask me to talk a little bit about the charts and stuff. Look at this. I don't even need to type stuff into Google. I can give a 68.27% probability range for what the prices are going to be quarters going out. I don't even need to be that smart to do this here. Right, so that I have within a pretty broad range of about a 68% probability that the price is going to be somewhere between 166 and 133. Oh, that would seem useful to put on the slide, right? Explain it, right? You don't just want to throw a chart on there and make me do the work. I know what it is, but I want to know that you know what it is. But that's what I'm saying too. If you at least a little bit comfortable with Thinkorswim, you don't even need to put things into Google if you don't want to, or put things into Excel if you don't want to. Yeah.
So you just like take a screenshot of that and then explain it.
Yeah, dude. You don't even need to. I think it will let you just copy it, and then so you can send it to yourself, or you could send it. But you should be able to. Oh yeah, actually, see too. You can get a good sense too of what the number is specifically, because obviously, at time 0, we know pretty much that the price is going to be $149.70 because that must be what it is. But yeah, the way to do this would be, I think you would copy it this way and then put it in your slide that way. Or yeah, or you could just do the open on Apple, it's Command Shift 4, and then just take an image of that. Okay, then, so under Analyze, again, the one I could just type in the ticker symbol and do the probability analysis. But then also the fundamentals. That was the other side of this. So fundamentals, probability analysis, you're basically going to spend your time on Thinkorswim in the Analyze tab, because that's going to give you everything you need to tell me the 2 things I want to know. The 2 things I want to know are, what is the share price going to be 1 year from now, and what is your recommendation? It's not necessarily the case. Make this apparent here. It is not necessarily the case that just because the share price is higher than $149.70 that you should say buy. That's not the case. It might be that it doesn't rise as fast as the rest of the market. It might be that it does rise as fast as the market, but the risk you have to do to take on to get that, you'd be on a risk-adjusted basis, you'd be better just investing in something else. Obviously, if it's very risky, you better get a really high return and beat the market. Some companies are going to be harder to understand than others. Microsoft is pretty easy. They get a lot more revenue from gaming and from clouds than they used to. Don't pick, my free advice, don't pick Hawaiian Electric. That'd be the most complicated company you could pick, honestly. Because you'd have to understand the banking side of the business. You'd have to understand the distribution side of the business.
How about Apple? Apple's a company?
Well, yeah, I mean, is that what you're thinking? I mean, yeah, it's not. This made you the most money. No, well.
The bottom one is like $100 per share.
Hey, I mean, you can pick whatever you want. But you need to talk a lot about Apple Pay and the agreement with Goldman Sachs as they try to diversify their revenue sources. You'll need to talk about the decline in the other kind of traditional sources of revenue. So you just want to be comfortable that you don't get like all like hot and bothered by like the sexiness of that company. Like you'd almost be better off picking a really boring company so that you don't get like, your eyes don't get like glazed over with how exciting this looks. It's my advice. So CSX, railroad, you get this image of a balding, guy wearing slacks and tennis shoes walking down railroad tracks at a yard. There's nothing exciting going on about that business. Yeah, who runs Cheesecake Factory? Is it its own business?
Yeah, David Overton, but there's a stock.
Oh.
Oh.
Hmm.
What are they originally?
That's what they.
I hate fusion food. I hate fusion food. Oh, God. Skinnylicious menu. Is that what they have?
Yeah.
It's like
What is that supposed to be?
on that menu, everything on there is 590 calories or less. So it's like their skinny, healthier menu.
What kind of food's on it?
Yeah, on the servers.
You shouldn't be going to the Cheesecake Factory if you're looking for skinny.
You'd be surprised. Like you can do really good keto diet there too and everything.
Exactly. Exactly. Way.
Well, I have an answer for that. Just some people that are health conscious, they might want to go out with other people, their friends who aren't as health conscious. So therefore,
Tell me about the typical person that orders this.
The Skinny-licious menu.
Yes.
A lot of like older people order from there.
Like older than us or older than like old geriatrically?
Like old, like health conscious old ladies.
Makes sense. Yeah. Like sorry, Michelle. Does that make sense? Yeah. Again, that's why HR doesn't typically attend my class. So, yeah, they have that like thing, that little hook thing for their purse on the side of the table, right? Yeah. Right? I mean, isn't that? Is that not true, Michelle? Would you? I'm trying to generalize here.
Purse in your chair and you only put your purse in the floor or something.
It's old women love that kind of thing. Old women do. Yeah. Oh, Michelle, that could be your future. It'll be all our future.
It's not really men. Men don't really care as much.
Yeah, dude. That's probably true.
about the calories or
About the calories. Like I don't have them order like a lot of the calorie ones. But I do have some people coming in there for like the keto diet and I can help them out a lot because I'm like
That's right.
exactly
You're a
what you need.
keto person. That's right. So again, if you wanted to pick this, you do the analysis, the probability analysis. Listen to an earnings call. If you don't listen to an earnings call, I probably will listen to it in the background while I'm grading your things and get a good sense. Again, you'll get a good. If you're in this class right now and you're thinking, "Wow, Shadi, I don't know what. There's no company that interests me in the world enough to actually do." I'll be honest. I bet you the John Deere earnings call, which I usually do listen to just on my own free time, the John Deere earnings calls are usually pretty good. Ticker symbol DE. They're actually pretty interesting, and it's an interesting stock to look at. You could talk a little bit about the trade and agricultural policies of the Trump administration and how it's impacting the earnings of that Midwestern company. But you could also talk about technology, because the big lawsuit that John Deere faced was, what is the right of a farmer to repair their own machinery? Does a farmer have a right to repair it? The Supreme Court said they do not.
what?
Yeah, they do not. John Deere does not have to tell anyone how to fix their own tractor. And they do not have to sell their parts to others. Farmers do not have a right to repair things. So basically, right, you could buy knockoff. No one's stopping you from 3D printing and knocking something off. But John Deere doesn't have to give its parts to independent people. And you do not have a right to repair. That really helped the company because obviously, just like car manufacturers, you make most of your money. And I've talked to more than enough people, and I really have, like, you know, my wife for these like trip things, you know, and I've talked to this guy in Ohio that runs this farm implement company with his brother. Yeah, they make most of their money on the repairs and on the leases of the items. Because think about it, you lease something if you don't want to have to worry about the repairs, because the firm basically owns it.
Is it repair as in like make their own parts for the machine, or just
To sell the parts to people, independent like of instructions on how to do it, or even sell it to people that will resell it to others. So basically, if I want a John Deere original part, I have to do it through John Deere or a John Deere registered approved person. Just like Apple stuff, right? I mean, Apple stuff, you can buy other parts, but they're not going to be Apple parts. You have to be okay with the fake battery you bought that happens to work in your phone, right? Or the people that make the screen because you broke it, right? You can take it to the Apple store and get the official repair, but there's those kiosks right outside of El Moana Mall that will do it too, a lot cheaper. No, because the cars are different. So with cars, we can buy our own parts. I mean, you can buy GM official parts from, right? You can go, well, with Toyota, Mapuna, you can go to the service desk and buy any part you want. You don't have to have them put it in your car. My car, they designed the windshield washer fluid reservoir right by the hood where you slam it down. So of course it was like, right? And there was no equivalent part you could find online. And if you go to a junkyard, which junkyards are like the coolest thing, right? There's no car at the junkyard that doesn't have the same crushed in thing. So I either faced the prospect of never being able to clean my windows or buying the reservoir from Toyota, who did subsequently redesign it, which tells you that they didn't design it right the first time. So I paid $30 and I bought it right at Mapuna and then put it in myself. So nothing stops that. So why does Toyota do it that way and why does Deere do it their way?
Yeah.
Well, there's enough. The concern for John Deere is they have a very specialized kind of customer. And for John Deere, the farm implement machine is like $750,000, $750,000 machine, whereas the car is a $15,000 or $20,000 thing. And all of those machines, the tractors, are only rated to last a certain number of hours. So, right, they're not doing it by miles or things like that. So the people at John Deere have figured out the way they can make the most money is by controlling, and they do tightly then control distribution. Not much unlike how Toyota sells cars in Hawaii, right? You can only buy it at Servco. Well, obviously on the rest of the mainland, a city will have like 4 or 5 Toyota dealerships. We're just kind of weird that way that we don't. Our nearest John Deere and Caterpillar person is actually right down here on Farrington, right by the Taco Bell and right by Seafood City, which is fantastic because then I take my kid there while my in-laws are shopping at Seafood City, and then my kid gets to see like all the like extractors and yeah. So if you want a fun time with your kids, that's where to go. So if you really can't find a company, that would be what I would do. If you're not going to use Thinkorswim, not all hope is lost. Is there anyone who's thinking of a non-Thinkorswim strategy? You should raise your hand now if you don't want to do it. I just think it's the easiest way to do it.
Now that I figured out how to use it.
Exactly. Now it's really easy. Francisco, do you have an idea of what company you might be interested in? Okay. What do you think? Yeah, high school. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Bianca, what do you think? High school kind of, I don't know, like, what do you think about high school in general? What year are you this year? What required class are you required to take as a sophomore? I did take this one called Family Living, where you had to learn like how to like have like a spouse and have a kid, and like you had to have like a flower.
That's a Midwest thing.
Yeah, I know. No, but you had to have like a. Is this a Midwestern thing? You had to like have a 5-pound flour sack that had to be your kid, and you had to carry it around for a week. You had to do a bag of rice. I guess that's the Hawaiian version of it. You had to bring it with you. Yeah, and even like called the cops on my one friend. What was his, Mike Schultz? They called the cops on Mike Schultz because he left the kid like in his locker because he didn't want to carry it to class. And they called the cops on Mike Schultz.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. To some guy, everyone has to like think about like things like that because everyone remembers everyone's name. It's Mike Schultz. Yeah, you got in trouble for it.
Does anyone in Wisconsin not have a German name?
I don't know, probably not in German or Dutch. Yeah. Yeah, Mike Schultz. Did you get in trouble? Did you have to get married, or did you have to like raise it on your own, or what did you have to do?
Just on our own.
Oh, see, we had to get
And then
married.
he marks the bag because if you try to replace it, he like signs the bag.
Ooh,
Where
that's
did
a
you
good
go?
way to
Did
do
you
it.
go to
Kalani.
Ah.
Did your child survive? Like made it the whole time? Yeah, I had. Oh, dude, they had like a ceremony. They had like a fake ceremony at like a
You had to
church.
get married?
I don't remember what the rules were. I did.
Wait, can you be a single
So
parent?
you can pass it off?
I think so. Yeah, you're supposed to share the parenting duties. This was sophomore year in high school. because we also had health class that year, which obviously then the softball coach is like telling you about. Like, it's always the coach. Anyone who says it's easy to be a PE instructor in high school and middle school, I actually think it's the hardest job. Oh, see? Yeah.
We had to run track, right?
Yeah.
Because I was slower, he would like throw baseballs at me.
Wow.
He would,
did you have?
I don't remember. It was like a tall white guy with like a very like oval head.
Oh, I see.
What school was this?
James Campbell.
Campbell.
Like, he would
Oh,
hit
is
me
that
with
Coach
the balls.
Wada?
Like he would like.
No, see, is that the name?
Was it Coach Bueno?
I don't remember his name. Like I kind of blocked out the memories.
See, now see, again, if you're an athlete, you're used to stuff like that because that does happen as an athlete. But if you're not an athlete, like I remember, again, my son getting really upset at soccer because the coach kept yelling at him. Like, dude, like that's what coaches do. That's what good coaches do. They do yell at you. What'd you pick as your stock class? In your stock class in high school, what did you pick? Do you remember? Did you have to pick a company that you did an analysis of, or J&J? What year was this? Yeah. Well, then it's split and stuff too. Yeah, Johnson, dude, you should have bought it. I own it. Yeah, I know. Well, Johnson & Johnson would actually be a pretty easy company to do because its line of business is pretty narrow. It's got a pretty strong dividend, and but it's even narrower than Microsoft. It's actually a pretty easy company to do an analysis of, if only because of how long it's existed for. I wouldn't buy Johnson & Johnson, but that's the thing. You can pick a stock that you wouldn't buy. And if your recommendation is hold or sell, it's just as good or as bad as one that has a recommendation to buy. Probably. Yeah, probably. Why are you thinking? What are you thinking? Well, let's pick Tesla. Tesla's pretty volatile. The shorts, how do we know it's volatile? Because the way that we would know it, just type into Google most shorted stocks for 2019, and Tesla's going to be, if not the top, up at the top. Uber would be another one at the top, if not near the top. Yeah, exactly right. If you pick this, you can basically make any recommendation, as is shown right here in the analyst reports. And one of those four is going to be exactly correct. With Johnson & Johnson, you saw that very briefly with Francisco. Like, yeah, right there was kind of like leaning a little bit more towards buy, but kind of settling on hold. In this kind of weird market we're in right now, you're going to see a lot of hold recommendations because basically we're on the tail end. No matter when you think the next recession is going to be, we are on the tail end at least of this bull market. Whether that means that it's not going to necessarily turn into a bear market, meaning a bad market, but we're not going to see that kind of growth that we had in 2016. We're not going to see that kind of growth we had in 2018. We're just not going to see that. It is resource-wise unsustainable to do that. But yeah, if you were going to do Tesla, dude, you would have a fun time listening to that earnings call. Have you ever listened to that? I mean, I've never. That would be a fun one to listen to. Yeah, you really can't be wrong because even on the probability analysis, I bet you. Okay, I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna go from 150 to 700 is gonna be my guess. Not too bad, actually. It's actually not as. The volatility is at 42%. As opposed to. Whew. Oh, that makes sense. Sorry. Yeah. They're only taking it out 3 months. Sorry, my range was the 1 year range. I don't think. Just let you take it out 1 year? Probably won't. What the hell was that?
Drag it. Click and drag at the bottom.
Where?
Wait, is that what I was doing? That could not be what I'm doing.
You might be able to do it.
Maybe it's a,
So it is.
there's
Yeah.
a finger. There's a finger.
If you go to the bottom of the graph,
Yeah.
you click and drag that to the left,
The way.
Other way. Okay.
your left.
Mm,
No, wait till,
There you go.
wait till the finger thing pops up.
okay, just wait. Okay.
Now click and drag to the left.
Okay.
Also, that's the bays on the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh dear.
Yoko said she had a stock class in middle school.
So what do people buy as buckle, right?
No, they just made us learn about it.
But what did you learn? Well, buying a stock isn't hard to do. Whether you should buy it is the hard thing. Okay, well, what stock would you buy right now? If you had to buy a stock, what would you buy right now? Oh, do you want to make a presentation 2 weeks from now? No? You get to learn for free right now. Look at all these old people around you. They're all wishing they were in high school and middle school right now. High school was so fun. I can't tell you how fun high school was. Oh my God, high school was so.
Oh,
No, but it was so fun. The level of, I was aware of the level of responsibility I had, and I was well aware of how little I had. Softballs? I wasn't throwing softballs at people, no. No, I did not. No softballs were thrown at me.
Actually, I don't even think that he was my PE teacher. He was just
Just a random guy. Hey, you.
because there were like two PE teachers, right?
He was a rival one.
He was like an other class PE teacher, but they were just both in the golf cart thing.
Mhm.
Like my PE teacher was the one like driving and someone throwing the balls.
Coach wrestling.
No, I wasn't a security guard.
That's
I
not
actually
fun.
was friends with
Coach
security
The
guards.
security guard almost ran me over the other day.
Has that even happened? Okay. Brent, what are you thinking? What are you thinking as a stock? Okay, so see, now this is a good one, right? So if he's got an area of interest, but he doesn't really know the stock, and he doesn't want to like just have me tell him one to pick, which is probably a good idea, then what would one do? When I did this back on the first time, sorry, I would have to log out and log in again. But when you log in for the first time on this screen and you go to analyze, if you remember how I did it last time, it then shows you all those industries. And then you can kind of start fine tuning it based on an area of interest. But also too, I mean, the internet's your friend here, right? So if I wanted to find, so environmental sustainability. Well, why don't you pick this, right? So this is the controversial one that's here in on the islands now. They're the ones that are building the windmills or wind towers on the North Shore. This company makes its money by selling to existing electric companies renewable energy, basically. So they will build the solar panel farm. They will build the windmills. They'll build the whatevers.
They're the ones getting protested against.
Exactly. So the cool thing that Hawaiian Electric gets to do is that they don't have to get in trouble for getting in bed with this company. And when you get in bed with a company here, like you have to take on all of its baggage. So if you thought like environmental sustainability, I want to do this company, what I would suggest you do, right? So you see, I went to their website, I picked investors, I start to poke around here. And what I'm trying to do by doing this, I'm not wasting time here, but I'm just trying to, some of you might have an idea of a company, but I'm just kind of trying to walk you through what should your what might your discovery process look like, right? Okay, I just want to do this to get it right. So here I'd see, okay, here's an idea of what the price is, right? I could look at what's all going on here with the ticker symbol. Now that I have it, middle school is too early to do it. I don't know what middle schooler would learn very much about stocks. Middle schoolers don't give a shit about stock.
I just kind of did it to pass, and then to be honest, I didn't really like pay attention to it. But then, like at the end of the year, she was like, "Wow, you did so well! Like you ended up getting ranked in the state for it." I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Well,
The H chose Disney.
Yeah, I chose Disney.
and that was what year? 20.
2017.
So the share price was, yeah, in the 90s, wasn't it? Probably something in the 90s. You should have bought it. You should have actually bought it.
Again, no money.
I'll front you the money. I'll take a bit of the cut, but I'll front you the money. Okay, but see, right, so this would be, again, an idea where you've got an idea of like, I want to do sustainability, right? And you try to find some companies that are in that space, and then you work from there. So here now with AES, you would tell the general story, right, that they're making their money off of sustainability. None of these companies have a moral compass. Even Disney, right, as fanciful as it looks, right, it still like engages in questionable labor practices, both in the products it produces and the people that work at Disney, right? Everyone's there the amount of time they get their temporary work visa, and then, right, adios. And, right, so part of your analysis, you do not, like, 2 lines. I don't need to see very much. Do not make more than 1 slide about what the company does. Dude, I don't need to know. Just tell me the ticker symbol. Tell me the ticker symbol. Tell me the current price. And again, I'll outline this for you in that video I made for you. But the key things on like the first slide should be ticker symbol, right? What the current share price is, what your 1-year target is, and what your recommendation is. Those are 4 pieces of information I would need to see on the first slide.
So ticker symbol.
Current share price, ticker symbol, 1-year target, and your recommendation.
You want all of that on one slide?
Yeah, it'd be 4 bullet points, right? That's the most critical thing I will say the entire day today. I was saying about the 4 things that you want to absolutely know. Ticker symbol, current share price, 1-year target, and your recommendation. 4 bullet points. Because what you then do on all your subsequent slides, or on the rest of that, if you're going to do the 1 page, is anyone here going to do the 1 page design or shaky? Okay, so on the 1 page design, that would all be in a corner. And as you typically see, it usually tends to be in the top left corner, is all that. Then the rest of it would all be, you don't need to explain to me how we got to the current share price, but then you would have a bit on the second slide, a little bit about the company. Just tell me a little bit about what it does. Again, you absolutely should be guaranteed that I'm going to be on Thinkorswim typing in stuff, looking at everything too. So don't think Shiny's not going to think about it. I picked Apple and he likes Apple, or I picked his favorite CSX and I know he's not going to look at that. I'm going to look at each and every one of them you pick. And if you pick something I don't know, like you pick some weird, like, you know, Chinese coal company that I've never heard of, right? I will do my best to figure it out. And I will, if I can't find out the information that you got, well, I don't know how you got it then. I mean, what?
I know that's Chinese.
It's in the Hong Kong market, so it is legit. I mean, you can pick that. The challenge you're going to face is you're not going to have enough it's going to be really hard to say a lot because they haven't even had their first official quarterly earnings.
Well, then I probably shouldn't do that.
You'll have a hard, I mean, you pretty much know that your recommendation would be buy, but I don't really know what.
What data I would have to base that on.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd be curious to learn more about it, but now you're on a real tightrope. You're either going to get a super A+ if you do it really great, or you're going to have to settle with something less than that because you took on a greater challenge than you could handle. So it's a,
Force.
yeah, it's your choice. But I mean, still, I mean, your process is not that different. You see here, I can get my range, right? And again, you're going to have to spread this out then for the year. So you'd have to adjust that for the year. Again, the way we did that was get it to be a hand and then pull it out and do 365. It's close enough, right? And then you can get a good sense with the probabilities. But the whole point of your fundamental analysis is telling you where you think it's going to be in that really wide space.
So even if you do the 1-page thing, you want to see this graph in there? Or something?
No, if you're going to do that, so I was just thinking about that. So I think there's some free templates out there. Yeah, free games, free Texas Hold'em. Here we go. Whether it's actually free or not, or whether it's actually free or not, looks like it probably isn't. Well, yeah, if you could get this one. Actually, this is a pretty good way to do it, actually, here. You should find this site, whatever it is. And you use Bing, don't you? Do you use Bing? That's good.
Only ever use.
There was that one guy. Yeah,
Niles.
Niles. Yeah, remember he had all those knives in his trunk of his car. He sold knives for Cutco.
Nice for who?
Next time I saw him last month. And he's like, "Who's your car insurance company?" I thought he was actually just curious. No, it turns out he's also selling car insurance. No, too. He's just made for selling.
What
There's
class was this?
no, I just saw him walking to my car. He's like, "Who's your car insurance?" I thought he was serious. I was like, Geico? And he's like, "Oh, you want me to run a quote for you?" I'm like, "You're legally allowed to do that?" Because you have to have a license, I know, to do it.
What were these knives he was selling? Pocket knives or kitchen knives?
Kitchen knives.
Okay.
If you listen to a demo, he'll give you a knife for free. Yeah, yeah. You want a free knife?
No, what's it called? I just they never had a thing where they give you knives.
No, you get the knife for free for listening to the demo from the rep.
No, like I was a representative, so I did cut one before.
And you didn't give out free knives?
No,
No, you did too.
I did too. I wore a full suit.
Yeah.
Man. Cutco, man. Only Cutco's winning. Hey, but that's how you, like, that would actually be a pretty weird. I don't know what site I'm on there, but what a great site. Yeah, but I mean, you can do it this way. And honestly, I actually think this is actually easier than doing the slides thing. You don't have to show me as many pictures. But yeah, you don't need to, you could put that analysis on the side here, but it's up to you. Most of what's on here, though, is the information you've been telling me on the slides. So, what I really care about is this other stuff, the other two paragraphs that are here, because it's now telling me why do you think we're in the range that the technical analysis said we should be in. And that's a pretty wide range, whether you're going to make money or lose money. In any stock is going to be based on your assessment of the risks and the opportunities. And that's really all that stocks are, right? is Alibaba. Now, the reason why I said it was more than likely not as a buy is that the risks that Alibaba faces are pretty minor compared to the opportunities. I think most people do. But for something like Uber or Airbnb, when it finally does an IPO later this year, the risks are actually, in my opinion, are greater than the opportunities. Others would disagree with me and think the opportunities are greater than the risks. But that's what makes investing fun then, right? Is right, people putting money on the table and saying, I don't think states and cities are going to be able to legislate Airbnb properties, or me saying you can't have 1099 employees anymore, Uber, you're going to have to pay them like the employees. It's going to wreck your business. If you're putting money on the table and figuring out what's going to go on. You know, I don't know. I would say middle school was kind of boring. It was boring. I don't think it was fun, but I remember taking a typing class and thinking,
Me too.
taxpayers are paying to make things up to them.
You could do that stuff in middle school?
Yeah, you're thinking that in middle school.
I was, because my father would complain about property taxes. And so I would think about the biggest expense for property taxes usually is education. And I just thought, wow, my typing teacher really doesn't know very much. She doesn't really, I've never actually seen her type either. She never typed. I never saw her typing. And I wasn't going to call bullshit on it, but I don't know if she actually knew how to type. I mean, we did have to like,
That is definitely odd.
what, that she never typed?
Well,
or
I
that
took typing
thought
in
that?
middle school too. She, first of all, she was a bitch,
Yeah.
but she was a bitch that could type like 110 words.
Oh, really? Did she show off ever that she could do it?
I wouldn't say
mean,
she showed off, but we saw her a few times type.
typing? Yeah. But was she like acting like she's all that because she knows how to type 110 words?
Not necessarily. She was just a bitch.
Huh. Let's see, worst. Oh, I remember my worst teacher was a sub. But he was a sub for like 9 months because my science teacher in 9th grade, Mr. Good, had a heart attack. And then, so it was only like the second week of school and he had a heart attack and he was out then for like 9 months. And they had replaced him with like some guy that had just gotten out of the Marines. Like,
Oh
it's
my
almost
God.
like-
Oh,
It's
oh.
almost like a movie.
There you go.
It's almost like, he had like
Full Metal Jacket now.
he had the like crew cut hair, insisted on sir, yes, sir. Man, it really was really.
He insisted on.
He insisted on sir, yes, sir. He called everyone like that. Remember that one TV show where the teacher would always say like Mr. So and so, Mrs. So and so. He'd never call people by their first name. No, it was a TV show about school.
I'm assuming it's not Disney.
No, I don't think. No, there was like the one girl was named Topanga, and then the one girl.
I know.
What? Yeah, Boy Meets World. Yeah. Is it really? Okay, well, see, I saw some more Disney stuff. Yeah, didn't that guy always refer to people as like Mr. So and so or Mrs. So and so?
Yeah.
So that was that kind of teacher. I mean, are you thinking any stocks right now? What stock are you thinking of right now in your head right now? Is there any company you are thinking of outside of Apple? If you pick Apple, Kristen, I don't know, like one of you is going to pick Apple, and it's going to partly piss me off, and it's going to partly like make me interested. Are you going to make a presentation?
I'll choose Apple just for
See, that's good. See, I like that.
It's only gonna be one slide though, because I don't know anything. This is gonna be
It's just your
But that's why. But then you get to do the research on it. Let's. Oh God, Central Pacific. Yeah, CPF. Pick CPF. That'll piss me off just as much as Apple. That actually pissed me off more than Apple. Central Pacific Financial. Yeah. Yeah, Kristen's thing.
I actually tried to find the Disney stock. It's not there.
DSNY.
It didn't show anything.
Oh, sure. What are you looking for?
Disney World and Co. Is that not it?
What? What are you looking for though? Like, what specifically are you looking for? Like the probability, the fundamentals. What are you looking for?
Yeah.
DSNY. Why is it not? Yeah, why did I DSM? Why did I say Disney? Oh, Destiny.
Yeah.
Sorry. Communication services. So look at this print too. So if you see something that you're interested in, you could also just go back to the larger industry too. If you don't like the company that you picked, right? So this is the one for Disney. Let's just go back to AES though. Okay, so for this one, we don't actually have the industry. Probably because, sorry, in this case, the industry is not. Let's pick the one that would piss me off, Central Pacific Financial.
What's the ticker symbol for Mercedes?
Well, it's not. It's on the Deutsche Exchange. So MB, but it's on the it's on the Deutsch. It's on the German exchange. For most of the, so for an exception for AES because of the industry, it's probably harder to codify it. But let's say I pick Central Pacific Financial, I start to do it and I realize, wow, I really hate this company, but I like the industry. Now I can get a ticker of all the, I can get a list of all the stocks that are in that same space. And then I could start working through those and trying to find. Now, again, there's hundreds and hundreds of these. How you would organize it, honestly, here's what I would do. Pick volume, do a search for highest volume, because then you'll have some of the bigger companies. So obviously something like Bank of America is going to be right up there because of how big it is. Wells Fargo, right? So again, you can kind of do it that way too, where you can find the biggest companies in this space. You could also just send me a quick email too and say, I like this industry. Can you give me some ideas? And I'll give you some ideas that are doable. Again, not saying you can't do Alibaba. I can't even, not even saying you don't do Mercedes-Benz, but you are making your life a lot more difficult than it probably needs to be.
Would you be happier if I chose this case?
I think it's a shitty company. I mean, if you want to take that on, yeah.
Why do you think it's a shitty company?
Well, wouldn't that just make my job easier?
Well, I guess here's what I want. So the reason why it's a difficult company to do is you would need to have a very good sense. Are they making most of their money from franchise fees? Are they making most of their money by company-owned stores? It's all company-owned. How are they financing that? So see, now I need to know more about how they're financing it. How are they I mean, how many stores do they own? How do they finance that? That seems. Well, now you got me curious. So I guess now. But see, here's the thing. If I have unanswered questions, this is the challenge you face now. If you don't do the presentation.
I think it's around 220.
How do you, there's no, how would you, are you sure they don't have any?
Our store is 202.
And we opened September 19th, 2017. So
And we open about 10 a year, I think. So probably like
220.
That's actually really impressive. How could we do that?
well, it's an international.
Oh yeah, that's
company,
it.
so
That's
they
yep. I see what you're saying. Sorry.
There's a lot of revenue streams you're gonna have to tell me a story about. I think it's a lot more complicated than you think it is, and it's a high risk, high reward option.
I see an issue.
It is high risk, high reward. You would have to. I'm really curious now. I mean, I will investigate this later. So now, if you don't pick it, maybe I'll become more knowledgeable about this company than I should be.
Dr. Choding,
But
I see an issue with the information that proposed. Eli said that there's about 222 restaurants. That says 208 as of March 2017. So that's not up there.
I'm not worried about that. That thing I'm not worried about. But here's what I do see. Okay, so they do have their own restaurants. Then they're running so they're not outsourcing it. They're actually making their own thing there. Then they are producing it for the stores that they have. Then they're licensing it internationally, and then they're putting it in regular non-restaurant places. So now I gotta like trace out. Plus, again, how did they finance building the 200 something stores? That's pretty expensive. How do you manage that many stores? That's a management challenge I'm not used to. So again, if you like this space, why don't you just pick McDonald's? It's a lot easier. Yeah, you would, and you would need to tell me a lot. But picking McDonald's, it's pretty easy. Most of the stores are franchised, some are company owned. They got an interesting revenue stream for Uber Eats, but they pretty much stay out of the business. The only controversial issues are, well, the CEO just got fired for being handsy with someone. And
Which CEO was that?
it's actually funny. They did a write-up of him in Business Week back in September, and I was just, what happens is that I read the top stories right away, but then it like takes me a few months to actually get through the rest of the magazine. Last week, I finally got through the rest of the magazine. I was like, oh, this is a really nice write-up of the guy. And then I thought about it, I was like, wait, didn't he just get fired? So back in September, Business Week did a really nice write-up of the CEO of McDonald's. What was his name? Greenlaw or Greenwood or Green something? Was that what he was doing?
Yeah.
Maybe shit.
No, the article I read made it seem like it was like
You're never going to know what the story is. The Michelles of the world will cover up the story. We'll never get to hear the exciting part of the story. Well, see, but that stuff, it's...
But then it was like more like you probably got caught and that you had to do that.
No, as much as I make fun of HR, the thing I do have to appreciate, at least everything is black or white. It's not really gray. I don't like it when things are gray. Like, dude, there's power relations. If your boss wants to date you, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, like that's just wrong. Like, right? I mean, how can you ever say it was right because we both wanted to do it? Like, no, that's just wrong, dude. Like, that's your underling, and one person's the boss. Like. Exactly. There's a power imbalance, and it's really hard to build a fruitful relationship off of. Wouldn't you agree, Michelle? What? Why on Maui? To each other?
Wait, what? What are you saying?
Relationships in the workplace. It happens a lot of
Oh,
Like
that's because it's such a small
power imbalance imposed upon, or we're just working together and we become friends over time like a movie?
That makes sense because Maui is such a small community.
That's why
Not much to, not much to
But isn't everyone always?
It's true. It's true. You cut off uncle is probably your uncle.
Oh shit.
No, see, that's what I'm saying, right? And people think about those implications, of like being related to someone, and
That's why you go to a family reunion so you don't make sure you're not doing
exactly. I don't know, Kristen. Instead of Cheesecake Factory, this one's a lot easier to do in the same space. I mean, the reward is going to be not as big as if you really pull off a really good Cheesecake Factory analysis.
You know, for
But it's harder to get this really wrong because there's such deep analysis of the company. Whereas Cheesecake Factory, that's like third tier analysts are looking at that company. You're not getting your like top people on it. What?
so before I dropped out of DOTS, it was like the crappy investments course.
Yeah.
It's one of the companies I chose to invest in for
Was McDonald's?
yeah. Because I did a year trend analysis. So I did everything from a year ago.
Mhm.
And they have basically his course runs from the beginning semester to the end. So basically with the contest to see who had the most money at the end. I was like they peak really hard during the holidays, so that's why I bought into them.
Which company?
But did you make money or fake money?
Yeah, and Starbucks was supposed to be good too, but then they had something happen to them that messed up everything.
Was it that issue, the discrimination issue?
What was it, the cops?
The cops.
They got in trouble for putting snowflakes in their cups. So now they have.
I know, I forgot what it was.
Oh,
It's
yeah, I
all
heard about
really
that.
like Starbucks.
Well, the remaining slides, unless you're gonna do it like Elijah's method, which you might think it's complicated and that he's really dumb for doing it, but I actually think it's easier to do it this way. Because what you're gonna get out of doing it this way is you got a lot more substance, less fluff, and it's gonna be easier for me to see. I'm not gonna impose it. I'm just not that kind of professor. I think some of you really pulled off a style for the economic outlook that I wouldn't have suggested or recommended, but you really pulled it off. Except for your very bright colors method. I don't know if I still would have picked the bright colors method, but I was okay with it. You didn't lose any points for it.
Are you suggesting that I don't do the bright color?
Yeah, kinda, but I'm still okay with it. You didn't do pick it, I'm okay with it. It was memorable. It was memorable.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you what the template was that anyone else's. No, but it's not my way of imposing on it because you each had nice, actually fantastic ways of describing unemployment without me imposing it on you. So through freedom of work, in my opinion, this is a nicer way to do it because if you can find a template out there on the web that you can just put the things into, it'll be pretty easy to replicate something. Looking at existing investor reports, but obviously remember this. I'm also going to see those same investor reports. So I'm not going to accuse anyone of plagiarism. And nothing in this world. I know some English teachers are like, "Oh my God, you used financial trends, and I saw they used it in that." And I'm not going to be that guy, right? I just want to see. Everyone steals ideas from everyone else. That's the world that we live in. I'm not going to turn it in. I'm not going to, if you want to borrow a sentence or two, go to town. But you have to know, I'm going to be looking at original sources too. And if you start, if you start using the word hegemonic, and I know you've never used the word hegemonic, dude, I know something's going on, right? So I'm not dumb either. Don't start using words that you never use, right? Put it into your parlance. And
That sounds like a challenge, Shady. I'm just gonna fill it all with words I don't know.
Right, so if you start talking about global comparable sales growth of 4.5%, although you got it from somewhere. Now there's nothing to fault him because it might be how he uses it and he used their line to then do his own analysis. Dude, that's fair game. I mean, we're all stealing from each other. Again, your English teacher would say something different, and that's what English teachers and librarians are for, to make us feel guilty. Right? Targeted savings in general administrative costs pursuant to a restructuring plan that was unveiled in 2015. If you use the word unveiled, I'll know you got it from somewhere. I've never heard one of you use the word unveiled. Michelle, do you have any idea yet of what company you're going to do? No? Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. It's out of business. Yeah, this is actually pretty easy. Actually, you're right. What? It didn't exist? No, it does. It does. It does. It absolutely does. No, the company did exist, but it doesn't exist anymore. What was it called? The Netherlands South African Railway Company. I can't imagine it. Yeah, died out about 110 years ago. So yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. There's no family money to be had here. But I do sometimes think about it. I'm like, I wonder if that actually caused my interest in railroads as well, right? Fueled my interest in railroads. Yeah, it's in my DNA, exactly. Yeah, but the rail line wasn't that exciting.
So your ancestor is Dutch as opposed to German.
Yeah, primarily. Yeah, they were probably bullies, right? I mean, you can't build a railroad without being a bully, I don't think. It would seem to be the case. Yeah. Most of the money was made, though. I do know this. Most of the money was made on the Pretoria to Manica line to Mozambique. That's what I do know. Swaziland still exists. Swaziland is like this weird little country that when you take the train, you pass it in like a minute or two. There's not, because I took then the train from Mozambique down to Johannesburg. That's over to Johannesburg. But you're only in Swaziland for like a little bit of time. This red orange line doesn't exist anymore. Or it did 100 years ago. Good. Put that in. Yeah. Let's see. Chris, do you have any idea yet what company? You're gonna do? Mike, first, do you have any idea what you're
I
gonna do?
do.
What are you gonna pick?
But I haven't set. I'm not set.
Okay, so let's hear it.
I've got four right now that they can grow. Alibaba, but I mean, I'm not sure.
Okay.
What you told me, and then Mercedes is the same thing. I'm not
Okay.
sure. That's the one I really want to do. But,
Okay.
what that you said would be more difficult because it's on the Dutch.
Well, because it's on the German exchange. So Mercedes-Benz, you're going to be dealing with an ADR probably. I don't even know what the ticker is, honestly, on the. So if I were looking for a ticker, see how good my German is here. Daimler AG, yeah, DAI, and it's going to be on the Frankfurt exchange. Okay, so now with that, DAI. Yeah, you're not going to get very much. You're going to have to do a lot of work. You're not going to be able to use Thinkorswim to do most of what you want to do. So then you really have to ask yourself, do I really want to do that? Ford's an easy one. Ford's an interesting one too. I know, and look at the dividend. Right now, you got me interested here. Right now, you got an interesting story because the dividend on Ford is amazing. The question is whether it's sustainable. So, okay, so we've got these analyst reports here. All look like they're hold. So the question would be is why is it hold? It's paying you a pretty great dividend. Yeah, the share price is down, but why would you still say hold? Well, that's what you would need to tell me why it's hold if you think that that's what it is, right? Again, what would be your reasons for holding? It might be that the share price is going to go up. It's not going to go up as high as the market, or it is going to go up as high as the market, but I'm taking on more risk to do it. And that's exactly what I'm going to be thinking in my head when I read your recommendation. If it is evident to me you just said buy because the price is higher, I will mark you down. If the only evidence you suggest to me is that a year from now it's going to be 880 and you say buy, that would strain reality that analysts would say 880 is going to be a buy. It is higher, and you would have made 9 cents a share. But I don't think most market analysts would say that that's going to match what the market does. But even if I did, so let's say the market does 5% next year, right? So add 5% to 8.71. I don't know what that is. What is 8.71 times 1.05? 8 something? No, 8 something. Or not, yeah, about 9, maybe 9. No. What is it? 9.15. If it's 9.15 that you say 1 year from now, I also find it hard to believe that you would still say buy.
As opposed to hold.
As opposed to hold, exactly. Because I still don't know whether, I think the risk you take on for doing it, in my assessment, is much higher than the overall market. But that would be the whole point of your analyst report. Convince me that the risks are not as great. And then you've got your buy recommendation. Or be more pessimistic and say sell, right? That's the whole, right? Because the other side of this is GE. And this is the big trade, like same thing here, right? When I tell my story of GE, right? It's not that my eyes, yes, I bought it a second time, shouldn't have bought it a second time. That psychology obviously influenced me in a negative way. But there is nothing better in life than putting your money on the table when you've got to believe. That's exactly what I did with GE the second time around when I bought it at 13 something a share. And I said that the risks were not as big as the market was saying that they were. And I put my money on the table and I thought that the rest of the market was wrong. Well, the market gave me a big screw you, you're wrong. And they really did. Now, again, it's at its 52-week high right now. But, dude, I don't know. I mean, look at this. The ratings are all over here. This is actually a little bit easier to do when it's like this, because you really just have two sides. That the Ford one kind of was hiding that the market does kind of have two views of it, of whether we should buy or sell. Here, the market's pretty patently obvious that there are some, like myself, who did believe you should buy it, and then there are others, like analysts at my wife's firm, that strongly believe in sell. So I'm always trying to influence my wife to tell her clients to do buys, and the analysts that my wife's firm employs are telling her to sell. I don't know, but maybe it's because General Electric makes locomotives, right? Maybe it's in my DNA.
How about Starbucks?
Okay, let's look at that.
You sound so thrilled.
Well, yeah, it's just I don't get all hot and bothered by these kinds of companies. I mean, it doesn't do it for me.
Well, I'm not hot and bothered.
No, but the companies like this, that's why I said like the Kristen Apple idea, like, oh my God, if I have to read another Apple one. But now you're going to do it. And then are you going to really pick Apple, you think?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because
There's so many beautiful stocks out there, and you're going to pick Apple.
well, that's why I was changing my mind to cheesecake.
And it's interesting. It has the potential to be pretty interesting.
Well, the reason why I was gonna do it is because, like, well, I work there, and so I have like
Oh,
knowledge about the company.
but you don't really have knowledge about you mean you.
And I've done previous.
I feel like I'm acting like the
projects.
track person that threw a baseball at you now. I shouldn't do that.
Like, I did previous research projects on the company.
I would say her and Eli are the two most knowledgeable waiters and waitresses. Really.
Yeah, but
Most
don't you usually hate the place you work? I have always hated the place I work at.
Well,
Sorry,
as a
Michelle.
company, it's a pretty great company.
Really?
I like a lot of their beliefs and stuff. Like, they do a lot of giving back and.
I'm curious as to why you're so.
Like, one of the ways
Pessimistic
they
about-
save money and stuff.
About Cheesecake Factory? I've actually, again, last time I went to a Cheesecake Factory was junior prom.
Damn.
Junior prom. Yeah, junior prom. No, junior homecoming. So that would have been 1994,
Well,
95.
that's a good enough reason right there.
I remember it was at the Northridge Mall. Yeah. I don't remember what I ordered. I'm guessing they didn't have. What were those called? Delicious. The Skinny Licious. Starbucks. Let's look at it. I love cheesecake. I just did never. Do I what? At that thing? No, I don't remember what I ate. Actually, I don't remember. I'm assuming I did. I didn't pick it. Sure, it sounds pretty yummy. I mean, there's nothing. If someone said to me, "Let's go out to eat," I would almost inevitably pick gyugaku or I'd pick steak. Cheesecake Factory just never enters my list of like.
They got some good steak.
Really?
Yeah. Trying to remember what it's called.
But it just seems weird to.
It's not that one.
Hibachi.
What's that?
Hibachi.
Might be that one. Anita.
Let's see.
Was it like a little bit sweet
And steak
flavor and
combined.
have like a wasabi mashed potato with some of the style asparagus?
Yeah.
Now you sound like a waitress there.
Filet mignon.
That shit. I'm not sure. It's bugging me.
God, look at that. The volatility is not that big, but the range is pretty wide on Ford.
Name of the star.
See, I like asparagus and mashed potatoes.
Well, I got this to go. So there's
Oh, I just have this image though too that Cheesecake Factory is really overpriced. I mean, everything you keep telling me about Cheesecake Factory, it seems very expensive.
I mean, it is expensive, but I don't.
What about Popeyes? Is Popeyes is it shareholder owned or what is Popeyes? What is it? RBI. Why is it called what? Sports Supply Group? Popeyes, no.
Which Popeyes do you order?
But you're in the back. She's in the back office. Glasses in the back. Right? You're in the back office, right? You're not at the fry. Yeah, frying stuff up. But also the Popeyes here in Hawaii they're all franchise owned, right? In this case here. What is it? I'm sorry.
They also own the Burger King.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Well, dude, this chicken sandwich is pretty great. So I don't know. They really did. I don't know if I'd fight someone for it, but it's pretty damn good.
It must be because you're eating it.
I'm eating it while I teach. So, hey, are high school teachers allowed to eat in class now? Or are the rules still the same? Like they couldn't?
We can eat in class and we can eat in class.
Do they let you use your cell phone in class? See, I went to high school in pre-cell phone days, so I never would have known the rules. What can you do?
Depends on the teacher. Like my English teacher doesn't let me use my phone, nor does my English teacher, but like most of my other periods do.
What would you use it for? Like to text someone and say, "Can you believe what Michelle's wearing to class today?" Or like, what would you like?
I mean,
Is it like typical high school stuff? When we used to do it by paper, it sounds like ancient now.
sometimes like I use it mostly for like when I need to finish an assignment that's due by like the next period.
And so you're typing it on your phone?
Yeah, I'm typing it down in Google Docs on my phone for next period.
Oh, see, that's about the way I did it. Yeah, man, I remember my favorite class in high school was study hall. I would catch up on so much stuff to get it done, so I wouldn't have to bring anything
We're
home.
not allowed to have study hall.
What? Why not? That was like the best class ever. I loved study
Yeah,
hall.
with the elective slot.
Oh God, because it was study hall and then it was driver's ed.
Don't worry about
They
that.
had less
I had to
to
take
worry
that
about high
soon.
schoolers doing.
It's pretty easy. Let's go. Where'd you go? Didn't you go to Mary Knoll? Didn't you, or where'd you go? Yeah, you went to Mary Knoll, right? That's right. How about Mary Knoll? What were high school classes like there?
Well, right now, like after I left, they made it look like much like classes.
Seems like it.
Come like around 10 o'clock for
Yeah.
English class.
Yeah.
But when I went, it was like started at 8 a.m.
When did you graduate from Mary Knoll?
2017.
Well,
I mean, we had like study hall, but we were only allowed it when we were like upper classes, like junior, senior.
Didn't they used to be an all-girls school at one point? When did they change that?
It's QSR.
QSR. Gotcha. That's kind of interesting. Are you thinking of doing it? See, Gladys, you're a little bit more like me now, right? I don't usually love my employer. I don't understand Kristen's devotion to her employer. I just never. I mean, there's got to be people like that in the world, because if that's what defines me as the non-liker of the company I work for.
Well, I like knowing a lot about who I work for.
Oh, I do too, but usually it just reinforces my dislike. I mean, the more I find out about UH, the grumpier I get in the world. No, it's not. It's actually, I could say it about any company I've ever worked for. No, not even state employers. Like when I worked for the Fed, I hated the Fed. When, like I worked for gas stations as a high schooler, I always hated the gas stations. I mean, the Greek restaurant, the Greeks didn't even do anything to me. I still hated the Greek restaurant. I just, it's ingrained in my personality. I just don't like being bossed around. Yeah. I don't think I'm an HR menace. Like I don't get in trouble to get in trouble with HR, but
I think you're one of those that I would just say, just leave me alone.
yeah, exactly. Leave me alone. I'm not gonna bother anyone. I'm not gonna but I'm not gonna be the one that organizes the food drive to make the company look great. They did ask me to. UH had we had like a snowman costume contest extravaganza over at Kapolei Commons by the theater, and apparently West Oahu we had to decorate a tree, and I had to lead the group. That was like the worst idea ever. We did not even place.
Who chose to lead it?
Exactly. exactly what I would say. Like, again, someone in HR had to have said, yeah, Shining should do it. It was like my second year here, so they probably didn't know me well enough.
What is, in the big, what's the point of that? Big picture, what is the point of going over there to decorate a, what'd you say, a snowman?
No, we had to actually think of something. So Leslie Rush, who probably some of you have had for some classes, she came up with the idea that there's like this, in that one Christmas movie, the one with that like horse. Sorry, the one with that horse. He saved Christmas.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
I don't know. It was some horse guy that saved the whole thing. And there's like a monster in the movie. Is there a monster in that one?
Is it a stop motion, so like everything looks like clay?
I don't know. We had to make this like, I'll tell you here. I'll look it up. I'm just going to type in Christmas monster. I'm going to type in Christmas monster, and I bet I'll find it.
Krampus?
Oh gosh.
It's not, it would have been that one.
It sounds like a great name. No, it was not great. It sounds like a great.
No, Krampus.
Serial killer version of
Krampus is
Santa.
actually part of the real Christmas.
This one.
Oh, yeah, that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Yeah, we had to design that. I just looked at it. We just tried to find it out on the thing.
First of all, Rudolph's a reindeer.
Well, whatever. It's just the thing that was like driving the car thing, right? I mean,
Santa's sleigh.
yeah, Santa's sleigh, right? And right, the horse, the reindeer had to like. Right.
Oh, you know what?
No, not really. I've never seen it. I know the song. I just didn't picture the song with the thing. I don't.
I can see why you thought of the horse, because you're thinking it's like a stagecoach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Like
he's
a horse.
and you're flying around, and yeah, the little light bulb thing. I mean, yeah, it's interesting, but it's not like.
Is there an
That's why
incentive?
I thought of the horse. It's just pulling.
Yeah, you won like $250 Monday. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you do 10 o'clock?
that sounds good. Yeah, I'll be here.
I'll
hmm?
tell Marcia.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we had to design this. We did not win. Leslie Rush tried to design it, and she was a crafting kind of person. So that was the perfect person to have because I don't craft.
But you guys didn't.
I think everyone got a prize. I think everyone placed, but I don't think it was because of anything I did. How's a reindeer different than a horse? Wait, how do these things fly? I thought reindeers don't fly. Oh, it's like the elephants. Bianca, am I the only one else that, I mean, reindeers fly? Does it seem odd to you?
I don't believe in like Christmas magic
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't really believe in like Santa Claus.
That explains
I
why
don't think.
I'm going with that.
Christmas spirit. Okay. Let's say you want the high risk one. The high risk, high reward, Alibaba. I would put that up there. High risk, high reward. Oh, I wonder. Now you are allowed to pick ADRs if you want to, and that would be really kind of cool. So again, if I pick the one for ADR, again means the depository receipts for a foreign company.
What does A stand for?
I don't know. I thought we talked about this at one point,
We probably did, and I wrote it down.
and I don't remember. It doesn't matter though. But again, the share the stock that I own, but again, I didn't buy it on the CAC Courant because I don't buy stuff on the French foreign exchange. I bought it on the New York Stock Exchange, and I bought the ADR, which you would see here in the ticker symbol Total SA. So Total SA is the formal name of the company. ADR sponsored, meaning I don't own the shares directly. I actually own them through a depository institution. Right, so I kind of own it indirectly because I bought it with US dollars. I gave it to the management company that then exchanged it for euros and then went on the CAC Courant and bought the shares directly. So I do own the shares. I just bought it through an intermediary. And when I do finally sell this company, I'll be selling it through that same intermediary. It's a little bit less liquid because I obviously have to go through someone else to sell it, and I have to go through someone else to buy it. But what I'd be doing is buying and selling through them. Now, on any oil company you pick is going to be kind of interesting because most of their value comes from not knowing what not knowing what oil prices are going to be, which obviously is going to determine most of the value of the company, which is why don't do anything out past a year. Anything that broad, I mean, it's hard to predict anything. But if you look at this, the range of the share price here is pretty broad, right? I mean, we're going as high as 61, as low as 42 something in a year. I mean, that's pretty big for a company that does not have a lot of inherent volatility. Anything where the line of business is solitary is obviously going to be a little bit lower risk. But just because you hear lower risk doesn't mean lower reward, because you could just do it very well. So let's think of a company that has a single line of business, but it does its job very well. Who?
Hancock, that Korean tire company.
That's an interesting. I never actually. I don't. Are they listed on the U.S. exchange?
That's a good question. Probably
But it does inspire. So I was thinking of this though. U.S. Steel. Pretty easy to understand. A lot of volatility because it's being affected by the trade war.
because the Chinese aren't buying steel.
Yeah, or because of the tariffs that are imposed on imported steel from Russia. So Russia imports a lot of steel, and obviously Russia's not our big friend either right now. But the volatility is much broader. But this would be a high risk, high reward. But it's a single line of business, dude. It's steel. Like the only exciting things going on here is that they buy coal to make it. And really their biggest thing is it's a cyclical stock based on how the economy as a whole is doing. It's not a defensive stock. So a defensive stock would be something like Procter & Gamble. Everyone buys Tide no matter how the economy is doing, right? I mean, even if you say I'm going to get the Safeway brand one, you'll still buy like Crest, or you still buy some P&G product, right? Like, I don't care how bad the economy does. Even if I lose my job, I'll probably still buy Crest because I'm just a Crest kid kind of guy, right? Like, I just, cavity control and everything. Like, it'd be really hard to get me to change from Crest. I've used it ever since I was a kid, and I just don't think I would keep it. That's what you use. What's your toothpaste of choice? Have you always used Colgate? It doesn't, yeah. And you know what? And like Colgate, it seems too jelly for me. Like it seems too like sweet for me. Wow, that must be to be in marketing for toothpaste has got to be interesting because I bet you the inelasticity is incredibly low for toothpaste. I mean, how many people really switch? I mean, you tried it once and you never tried it again, right? Yeah. And you didn't care as much? Levi, what do you use as your toothpaste of choice?
I'm indifferent. I usually go Colgate.
Indifferent? Really?
Yeah.
You just use whatever's around.
Whatever's cheapest.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this some AIM? Are you using like AIM? Because AIM is like lost your job, living under the bridge
Okay.
kind of
Sorry.
style.
Indifferent.
Is that your toothpaste?
No.
He still has that.
Colgate. I could do Colgate. I could do Crest. Like.
Do you use the same? You use whatever he's using?
No, I always use Colgate because, like, for me, when I had tried Crest,
Yeah.
like, it eats out the inside like of my cheeks, and like my cheeks start to like shed their skin cells. Like whenever I brush my teeth,
It was a certain toothpaste for me that did that. But the Crest, the white one,
Yeah.
Way too more
That one
conscious of
doesn't.
toothpaste.
there's a certain one that did that too.
I think it was the blue one.
So yeah,
There's another one since.
I just go to Costco.
Yeah.
I look at whatever's
I don't
super
like
cheap.
that
I
one.
buy it.
Oh my
Good to
God.
go.
This is
Yeah,
Which one? Sensodyne? Oh, my wife uses that one. Yeah.
I'm using Crest right now. It was like
I
literally
love
$6.
Crest.
$6 for like 4 or 5 packs.
I mean, I don't know. Like, so we got on this because Elijah, I was talking about what the elasticity is for toothpaste. I mean, this has got to be the cheap aim. Oh God. I mean,
That
How much
looks
was it?
like
Oh,
I don't know. Free.
wow.
it's only $1.
$1.89. 5 stars, really?
Pepsodent's less than $1. That's less than.
Aluminum.
Let's face it, those are probably bots.
Yeah.
Probably what?
Those are probably bots.
As opposed to Crest, which is gonna get like 6 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, they have, like,
Yeah.
right here. So this is the cheesecake 10K, right? So if they say right here that they do it by cash investments, does that mean they purchase their stores in cash?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they own the property though too. This is the other thing I
No,
was
they
looking at.
lease it. They say they do long-term leases.
You really want to do it, aren't you?
I feel pretty determined.
Okay.
I want to show you how good cheesecake can be, and then hopefully you want to go there and eat there.
I doubt that, but and you said they have how many stores? 200 some stores.
218.
Okay, so here's what I want to know next. So yeah, it would mean that they're buying it with cash. So that would mean then that they're cash. Okay, so here's the challenge and here's the risk. So for Cheesecake Factory, right? So this is what I'm going to think of when I'm reading her, because she's going to do it. You know? But it's going to be better than Apple. So what I'm going to already be thinking, and you have to know what I'm going to be thinking, and this is the risk you take with any of these companies, is I'm going to be thinking that, okay, they're buying it with cash. I want to know what their cash flow is like. I want to know what the book value is of the firm. How did they fare in previous recessions? If we think a recession is coming, how is that going to impact their cash flow? And if that impacts their cash flow, how's that going to impact their expansion plans? Or do they have enough cash on hand? Or do they have a credit facility where they'd be able to borrow during the recession, build up the store locations that they'll then exploit after the recession is done? Franchised firm doesn't have to worry about that kind of stuff because the franchisees takes on that risk, right? They just have to have enough money for the store. Now, being a heavily franchised company, if she had picked McDonald's, well, then she's going to have to tell me something about franchisees relationships, because that can be pretty contentious as well, right? So on Hawaii, for instance, the hard thing about that is that usually the same franchisor owns all of the Hawaii stores of whatever the company is. So, well, for instance, McDonald's, there's only two franchise owners for all the McDonald's locations on the islands. What's the other one? Dunkin' Donuts, McNaughton Group owns most of those franchise locations. But the problem for McDonald's is that the franchisor relationship is incredibly strained. The franchisor, McDonald's, wants companies to keep doing Uber Eats and wants them to do those touch screens. And the restaurants are like, fuck, that's really expensive. And I don't get anything for it because you're forcing me to sell hamburgers on the mainland for $1. So you're going to ask me to do this big investment and you're going to force me to charge $1 for hamburgers. Like, come on. Like, how am I going to make money, right? Because the franchisor always wins, right? They get their annual franchise fees, and they get a % of sales, and they get the boss year round, right? Franchisee, just like, dude, I just know how to follow orders. I know how to make a McDonald's hamburger because you gave me all the ingredients. I just want to make money and be done, right? And just make the thing you tell me to make, right? And I don't have to do anything except share the wealth, right? Right? There's risks to that. So if you got a heavily right? So in this case, Cheesecake Factory doesn't have to care because they directly manage, they've taken care of that risk because they've internalized it. Now you need to tell me something about how are they internalizing that risk? How are they managing their cash flow? Is the balance sheet strong enough to support the share price you're going to tell me? Which means you need to take into account with any of your analysis here, what you need to tie it back to what your economic outlook was in some sense, right? Because if I pick my choo-choo train, CSX, right, a weaker economy hurts, right? It hurts my choo-choo trains, right? Because that means less product on them, potentially. So then maybe if my economic outlook was one of the economy is going to be bad, you almost want to pick a defensive stock because that's going to make your life a lot easier, like your Procter and Gamble, like your, well, the company is private. I was going to pick Mars. It used to be public. You can pick Hershey's, HRSY, obviously. But Mars was a great company to own back when you could own it because Mars makes Skittles and whatnot, but it also owned pet food companies, and it even owned, do you know that the biggest vet franchise out there is VCA, like Veterinary Care of America or something? They bought out all these like vets offices. So like finding an independent vet now is really difficult. They're all franchisees owned by Mars, which is also making the pet food. Hershey's, let's look at Hershey's. Let's think you think the economy is going to do bad. Let's say you're negative Nancy about things. Oh! HSY, sorry. Basically, all the volatility here is whether you think the company if the economy is going to go well or not.
Oh, it's the other company I bought for
Hershey's?
yeah. I invested in Hershey's, McDonald's, Starbucks, Amazon, and Walmart.
And your high school teacher let you do this?
High school teachers, more passive.
There's more what?
That's for my investment stuff.
With Dodd?
Yeah.
He let you do that? You really didn't then, because that's a horrible. I thought of having him help me with the Bloomberg thing, but I'm actually thinking he's more puff than he's substance.
There was no,
Is he a lot of substance? He always wears a suit, which in Hawaii is not a mark of respect for me. It either shows that you're what?
On his first.
Really?
First something was the full jacket. So he actually.
The owners, the best in the town.
Yeah, the vet. I mean, what's your assessment? Puff, or has he got the substance behind it? What's your assessment? Shave space. I just really want to know what's your assessment.
Explain about in the what was the class we went to?
business finance.
Business finance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of sad that he's not giving, or he didn't give guidance to the investment fund, because that one he was talking a lot about.
There is zero guidance. So,
He talked that
there's
long.
the PowerPoint
Yeah. PowerPoint.
and then there was like a forum.
And that's the one that you guys were president and vice president?
What? No.
Oh.
It's in a class. So
You just built your portfolio.
Yeah, in the beginning.
And you were competing.
Yeah.
But he made a prize too. It made me wonder, right?
Well, you did well. Everyone
But when you picked something, was there an assessment? Did he make an assessment based on what you picked? I'm not sure I would have told you
well, you do like portfolio, like
a risk-adjusted analysis.
You like write a reflection, like analysis of why you made a trade. You post in the form, and sometimes you respond. Well, when you respond to the interesting ones, I guess. The only some response like the people who knew what they're doing.
Oh, see, I actually like responding to people who don't know. Oh,
So
okay.
he teaches business finance and
Yeah,
what else?
Investments. You'll teach investments.
finance investment.
That's here at West Lawn.
Yeah, he teaches in the spring.
In the spring.
No, he'll teach in the fall and the spring. Yeah, that's kind of my concern about having him teach more classes is, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's, you want industry professionals to be doing it, but my wife is good at sales. It's not like she's not like,
She had to teach you how to.
I won't lie, the cover page of his exam was a little intimidating when I first read it.
what do you mean,
It was
intimidating?
like a page on it. It says if your phone goes up, then you receive a zero, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I will not cheat, and blah, 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 blah.
I don't like
yeah,
that.
and then syllabus he says that if you're like, let's say your grade is 89.5,
You get to 89.
0.5, and if you want a 90, there's nothing you can argue about it. You talk to him about it at all, through email or anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? No, that's not fucking ethical.
That's
He can't
not-
do that shit.
Why would he tell you
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 can't
can
get away.
argue?
Although he does have that kind of personality, because the battle I fought for was he wanted to have in this Bloomberg space, he wanted to have a ticker sign, and I'm adamantly opposed, because what is that going to tell us? The market's closed. The market's closed at
Yeah,
11 a.m. What is that going to tell us? Is it going to show the same share price rolling around after 11 a.m.? I mean,
It's just for looks.
it's just for looks, exactly. So it's like pizzazz. So like that's what I'm saying. Like people that wear like a suit in Hawaii, you're either in trouble, right? Because you're in jail or you're dead, right? You be dead too.
So somebody asked him in our class,
Yeah.
because he got his PhD so early that
Yeah.
people didn't take him seriously. So it's to, so I don't know, it might be a
So they take,
complex.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Dude, everyone's got their
Messages cut.
complexes. This is true, right? Everyone does something. But some people are better at. Well, right. It's why some people drive incredibly fast cars. There's usually something
Here we go.
that went on in their life that caused them to buy. Because no man my age owns a Mustang that didn't have something that went on in their life that drove the Mustang. And the fact that I don't want a Mustang doesn't mean that. It just means it doesn't.
Final grade policy. Please note that all final grades are calculated on a cumulative point system, not a percentage system. That is the point of the course. The students
Do not
accumulated.
contact me after the final exam to request your litigation. I'd like an extra 7 or change your
No exceptions. Students who ignore this policy will forfeit 1 letter grade.
Wow, Charles, that is rough.
Is that even legal?
Well, dude, you can do whatever. You really can. I mean, I'm in a profession where you can kind of do whatever you want. There's very few hard and fast rules of what I can't do.
It's also ground for someone to go and.
Yeah, he did make a mistake on one of our discussions.
But who are you gonna complain to? Vice Chancellor's not gonna side with the student. When would a vice chancellor side with a student? It's in the syllabus. What are you gonna? You know what the rules were, right? I mean, that would be the vice chancellor gets involved. The vice chancellor's, if the vice chancellor even saw it, which I doubt.
You're saying he's not gonna, that's petty, that would be petty for him to get involved.
Yeah, but even the chair would be like, it's in the syllabus. You knew what the rules were.
Well, I hear what you're saying about that, but that's not really, how's that ethical?
It's a dick move, but and it's unethical, but whether you can't do it or not, pretty much what I have uncovered at this university, as I have at most universities I've been at, if it's in the syllabus, you can pretty much get away with it.
Okay.
As long as it's in the syllabus. And if it's not, then you pretty much can't do it.
And the impression I get from him too is he teaches at like a 400 level. To, like,
That was my fear. That was my fear. Yeah.
So I don't know if that part is.
No, it is my concern because again, with all this thing, like I'm worried about, dude, Bloomberg's intimidating enough to then throw people into it and then start doing all this shit. Like, who's gonna want to learn it then?
I don't know how to take this. I would really have it out.
Hershey's. So you said buy, or you actually bought it?
I bought it.
How much did you buy?
I bought it because I have a $100,000 portfolio.
Why did you buy it?
I bought it because, well, there's only one reason why I bought it, because during the holiday season, they have a peak, so I thought I'd make money off it. It's only a 6-month thing, so I was going to sell it for sure
But I mean,
But the idea would be that it's already baked into the share price. So why would you still? Did he respond? Did he respond to your thing? Why you did it? No, see, here's what I would expect. You would have to tell me, you would need to do a competitive analysis, right? You would need to say something about what's the elasticity of the things that they're selling. You need to say something about institutional ownership too. That would seem to be of note, right? So for a company like, let's pick one where the institutional ownership is incredibly high, but it's still out there. What's a company known for having an incredibly high?
Institutional ownership is
Incredibly high what?
Incredibly high institutional ownership. Single few owners. Scripps Corp. Not even institutional ownership. Sorry. So what I'm saying here is, what can you get away with at the company? Is it the case that there's so few owners? Is there so few owners that the owners get to basically write the book? So Scripps. So Scripps is EW Scripps. They own like newspapers and they own TV stations. Basically, there's very few owners of this company. It's basically family ownership. Same with like Walmart, right? Walmart for an incredibly long time had the family members owned Walmart. And what it does is it can either be fantastic for the company or disastrous, but it's usually one or the other, fantastic or disastrous.
When you say family members of
The founder.
They own most of
Oh,
I would like to say that that Shining Railway company we saw, the fact that it only existed for 20 years, probably was because it was family owned. And when it's a family, I mean, think about your own families, right? There's like screwed up sectors where no one talks about it and no one takes them to task, right? And their fucked upness persists because no one took them to task on it. In a broadly owned firm, the degree to which you can get away with screwed upness is a lot less because there's enough people, especially if you have an activist investor, that will call you out on the things that you do that are wrong. So let's look at the one that did something like that, Herbalife. Right? So Herbalife, look at that range there, 1524 to 5970. The 1524 came about because you had an activist investor who said, bullshit, right? This company, which is kind of like Cutco, which basically it's a pyramid scheme in the sense that one person buys all these supplies, then I find other people who are going to sell the supplies, and that person finds the supplies. Everyone's getting a cut. And the guy said, dude, it's a pyramid scheme. It's illegal. Their sales aren't what they say it is. Bullshit, right? And basically, the activist investor in this case lost out. Didn't want to wait long enough. Never was declared a pyramid scheme. Lost out. In other cases, the pyramid scheme collapses. That would be like your Enron kind of thing, right? Enron was basically taken down by people that basically then finally called bullshit. But for something like Scripps, where the family ownership is so strong, it's really hard to buy enough shares to call bullshit. Or like in the case of WeWork, the company that did ultimately not have an IPO, it would have been incredibly difficult to call out the company because that one guy would have owned super shares. Or like Facebook right now. Facebook is really hard, despite all the pressure that's going in on Facebook right now. What if you fix Facebook? That's a high risk, high reward company because you're going to actually have to look at the share class of the owners of the biggest owners. How would you figure this out, right? I'll call that the Freeze question of how will I figure out who all my share owners are? Dude, again, I say it, I'll say it again. I don't understand how they did it or why they are so great with this, but.
Dr. Shutting, I'm trying to ask you a question. You mentioned pyramids.
Yes.
Is it? You mentioned it.
That Cutco?
You did say Cutco is a pyramid scheme, right?
I don't know enough about it, but it doesn't seem.
What I was wanted to get at is, isn't Cutco an MLM company as opposed opposed to Enron. Enron was a true.
That's true. That is true. So yeah, Cutco is not a shareholder. Yeah, it's a master limited partnership company. Yes, yes, I would agree with that.
I was thinking, I was thinking multi-level marketing.
Well, it's also multi-level marketing. Yes, it's also yes, but multi-level marketing is a fancy way of saying a pyramid scheme. I mean,
but by definition, they're not exact. And MLM and pyramid scheme are not exactly the same. I mean, they're very.
it's intent, right? Again, it's probably in the land of like dating my coworker. Is it a? I don't know. It's kind of. I mean, it's kind of like a. It is kind of. It's what you call it and what it is. I mean, multi-level marketing is a very nice way to call it, though. I mean.
Date and we both work together.
See, exactly, right? So if the dating happens parallel to the fact that we work together, would you get involved? Exactly. Exactly. So there's probably a. But could the CEO be dating like the employee? And as long as they disclose it.
So anytime there's money involved and decision making, disciplinary and monetary.
I feel like if it's
So like if
What does that
Chris
mean?
was his boss,
Yeah.
and she was in charge of raises, no, there would have to be somebody between them.
Even if they were dating.
Someone that would determine his raise.
Right.
He could still get a raise, just someone else would have to
Right.
determine it. But she could date him.
But aren't you guys are peers though, right?
Actually, wasn't one of you a shift supervisor? No.
Shift lead. Oh, shift lead. I see.
And as long as they sign something that says they'll be professional about it, because we had somebody dating and they went
Got in a
to fill
fight.
up gas together and they were holding hands. I don't know why you need two people to fill up gas.
What?
Wait, what happened?
What?
Sounds like a date.
So
They can't hold hands?
the manager instructed one person, the guy, to go fill up gas, and then the girlfriend who's controlling said, "I need to come along." So they went to go fill up gas, and she was holding his hand.
No.
Wait, what's wrong with that? Wait, what?
It's inefficient. It only takes one person.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I agree with that, but what if she's just, needy and.
But the manager didn't ask her. The manager asked the guy.
She
So?
just superseded the
She's
manager.
crazy.
That's currently that's super.
Wait, what am I? Well, yes, it's clingy, and I agree. It's not a good relationship to be in. But why does HR have to be involved with that? What did the gas spill out? I mean,
Well, and put in the wrong gas.
Oh, so it's the wrong gas and it,
Because he was
So
distracted.
he's
well, that just
Yeah, he was
seems
distracted.
like.
Yeah, that.
That just seems like. But why did the relationship status get involved? I mean,
Because they would do stuff like that. Like they were tasked separate things, but then she would want to follow him. She's not doing her work.
Yeah, I definitely see where.
but is the fact that there's a relationship at fault, or is she just psychologically dependent and
Well,
just?
so they had to at that point sign, and it said in the policy to remain professional. So whatever they do on lunchtime, I don't care. But then
Really? I would think you would care a little bit. What did he
Well,
do?
because
I
that's
mean,
I know what it's.
yeah.
I saw that in the Navy too. There was one of the. I work in radio, so
So you
we.
can be dating and working closely together as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I think
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
but she
I don't know about that. I mean, again, I think I'd like to be in a workplace where I could make fun of the guy and the girl for having that kind of relationship. Can I do that?
Well,
Is that considered workplace bullying?
Yeah.
No.
and they had to fill up gas off base, so
That's-
that's just super inefficient for her.
Had to fill it up on Casper
Off base.
off base.
Okay, so let's go to finance.yahoo.com. I don't know. I would make fun of the person, and that's the problem, I guess. with
That sounds
me.
like some middle school or high school.
Exactly.
Who, me making fun of them or
No.
them behaving like that?
A girl like following going to pump gas with him and holding his hand while he's pumping gas.
I call it the Joanne Markowitz principle. Yes.
Which is what?
Oh, some girl I dated in high school. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I call it the Joanne Markowitz principle. Yeah. Finance.yahoo.com holders. Okay. Now, let's look at who the insiders are that own this thing. So I better see Zuckerberg's name up here pretty high. I better at least. Because if not, well, where the hell is he?
Is that bad? That might be bad.
David Fisher. Well, that one. Oh, these are transactions. These aren't. No, these are shares owned. Why is it? Oh, it's dated though. Okay, so let's.
There he is.
There we go. Okay.
Wait, did he sell? Oh,
Michelle, were those two, were they employees for UH?
Hmm.
Or just for some other
Oh, it's one of our projects. Yeah.
projects?
is he selling?
Some projects like that.
He's doing a lot of sales. It's not necessarily worrisome though. So the one where there's a lot of insider sales where you really start to wonder, the one I've been hearing about, is the Uber CEO. I don't remember his name. But let's look at this. So let's say you picked Uber. And again, I'm just walking you through scenarios here because I want, when you do this analyst report, it might seem like, well, shedding, how was I supposed to know I need to look at insider things? You don't really, and I don't know really either, but you just want to be, I mean, really the best mindset. And the only way I would caution you for doing Cheesecake Factory is you just want to be curious, right? You don't want to think like, I know enough about it that I don't like think more broadly about it. That's my only thing I'll say about Cheesecake Factory. But right, so for Uber, not that you're still going to do it, and I'm still going to read it, and I'm still going to learn a lot. Just have a curious mind though, and maybe have, I don't know, have Bianca read it. She doesn't care about, you don't care about Cheesecake Factory, do you?
I mean, not really.
Exactly. See, so have her read it, right? Because she's a jaded high schooler, so that's probably your best audience, right? She's more than willing to give the middle finger to any company that we're talking about. Exactly, right? So have her wearing black when she's doing it. Yeah, pick Amazon, see?
There's only one CEO that I hate. It's the CEO of Amazon.
Let's see, who's CEO I hate the most? CEO I hate the most in this world. It's hard. There's a lot of really bad ones.
Why do you hate
my
Jeff
face?
He's just way too rich for his own good.
Dude, have you seen those pictures of how he's changed over time? Now he looks like a robot.
Well, his wife got some of his money. but
She got
still-
half his money, not some of his money. She got
Actually, no,
half his
They
money.
sell, I think he gave her 30 billion. She didn't even take, she's like, I just want this amount. She didn't even get
30
half,
billion?
yeah, half. But the Amazon's making so much money at such a fast
But now he
pace.
looks like a robot. Apparently there's like memes. Yeah, here it
Oh
is.
my gosh.
Didn't we look at this? Yeah, this is, I love this. So whatever the fuck I want.
Nice.
So,
Okay,
look.
that's-
There
Is
we
that-
go.
Is that
behind-
really a pimp from 98?
Yes, yeah.
Holy.
Why does he look
You sure need to
directly
Vin
like
Diesel.
Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah, dude, look at that. Come on, Freeze, you'd appreciate this. Look, he's like built, like he's got
Yeah.
guns
Is
going
that-
here.
Is that a real picture of him though? And-
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, you work out quite a bit, right? I mean, how many hours does it take to maintain something like that? Yeah, but like he's got to be spending tons of time doing it, right? I know, Michelle. I shouldn't be looking at how much he's working out, but come on, like obviously in this case here, I'm asking an expert here.
I would say he's never got the time to do it. Because
Exactly,
guy,
like right? I mean, it takes time to do it, right? Exactly. Well, that's what we're saying here, right?
He came to the island earlier this year and bought Western Meats. You know those trucks. Have you ever seen those vans? The Western Meat vans.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just-
One eye works.
oh yeah, you're right.
Who's that?
Oh.
guy?
This guy? This is when they
down-
went into
down
India.
to the left. That's not
Him?
One is not like the others.
Oh, that guy. Who's that?
You're right. One of the eyes is screwed up.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the picture. It's actually a
Oh,
different
look at
guy.
his ex-wife too, right? So his ex-wife, she actually looks taller than him too, huh? I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, that couldn't surprise me.
Models are normally tall, that's why.
Wait, was that his ex-wife right there?
Who?
Right there. Is that her?
I'm
Or-
guessing so. There's lots of
or
pictures.
that is
I mean,
the one?
I don't. I'm guessing so.
Staring into a fan.
Oh, you know what? If you had to do a foreign company, this is the one I would like to see. Virgin. So, I don't even know what the ticker is. Virgin Group. I don't know enough about it.
I always saw commercials for them, but what are they?
They basically own lots of different little things. It is an airline, but it's also, dude, I remember I had a cell phone from Virgin Mobile. I remember having a cell phone from them. Well, maybe it doesn't have a ticker. I take it back. Maybe they don't have anything there. Well, look at all these companies. Virgin Airship and Balloon Company, Air Nigeria,
Or them.
Movie Festival.
They don't do any of these things? So what do they do now?
Well, they still do lots of different things. Lots of different little things.
What is it formerly owned?
These are former ones, yeah, but they have got other things. Oh, Virgin Cola. I remember drinking that.
Jolt Cola.
Oh, Joel too. Oh, yeah. Is anyone in this room still confused about what company or what? Even if you don't know a firm answer, do you want to throw one at me and have me walk you through the process of how I would do it, or what do you want? I mean, it's 7:46. I guess we're kind of done. Can I look at what? Mm-hmm. I know nothing about it. So what would I do for this one? Okay. So this is an interesting one, if only because I know nothing about it. So let's look at what we got here. Okay. So let's say you did this as your thing. Well, obviously I'm going to be on Thinkorswim and I'm going to start looking at it and starting to paint a picture of what's going on here. I'd see a pretty strongly growing company for what traditionally would be a pretty sleepy kind of business, security. But you've got all these like up and starter kinds of companies that I'm already, again, I'm kind of talking off the top of my head here, but I'm just walking you through what I've been going through this. So the big companies like Ring and whatnot, Amazon has already bought them out. So basically this company would be competing against them on some level. So let's look at how they're growing. They seem to be growing pretty well. They've got a good cash flow. They've got a strong business, at least by number. Don't have a lot of debt going on. Pretty healthy profit for what they're doing, considering the industry that they're in. Then got low implied volatility, giving you a pretty narrow range. That's gonna be a tough one to do. It'd be an interesting one to do. I don't know a lot about the company. You'd want to make sure. The one thing you'd want to make sure, if you pick this company, the one thing you'd want to assure me of would be, what is their competitive strategy with respect to Amazon, which is kind of taking a big chunk of this space as well. So the way that I know that, let's go back to our friends at finance@yahoo.com. What was your reason for picking it? I know nothing about it, so it's actually an interesting pick. I actually know nothing about it. Those like smart doorknobs? I don't know. It's like the kind where you gotta like put your finger on it, right, or your thumb on it, or something, right? Yeah. Don't worry about where it's located. It's only located in Ireland because they want low taxes.
But you're saying it's an American company.
I actually don't know what it is. I doubt it's Irish though. Because if that were the case, Dell would be Irish company. Facebook Europe would be Irish company. The fact that it's in Ireland is only for tax purposes.
Dell is in the computer company?
Yeah, Dell is in the computer company is based out of Ireland. So obviously it's not a. I just don't think it is. Yeah, it's a tough one. But it's interesting. I'd actually be interested to read it. But you'd want to say enough about what their competitive strategy is. And for a company like this too, you want to make sure that you say enough about whether the the dividend here, we'd expect it to be sustainable. I actually think it'd be cool to do this too. Look at what the shareholders are saying. Start talking about it. Again, remember when I did that one for you where I said, talking about, again, Daktronics? Again, message board is incredibly interesting for you thinking about what that analyst interpretation recommendation is. See if there's any merger rumors. You're going to be kind of Googling it, but for legitimate purposes about what's going on in a company that, again, doesn't rise to anyone's top of their mind about an interesting company. But if I start looking at this already, it's actually a pretty high reward potential company in terms of your grade because I know nothing about it. So you'd be educating me on every turn. And I'd be more inquisitive in a less accusatory way than I would if you picked Amazon. Because there I know enough to be like Bianca poking style than this where I'm more supportive in an inquisitive manner. Yeah, it's interesting enough. I think it's not going to be too hard to tell an interesting story about it. I think your hardest thing is going to be, it looked like the 1 year estimate, if I had to make a guess, would be probably low 120s, high 100 teens. And I don't know if it's going to be enough to say it's worth it, but it might be worth it if you think that the risk is very low. So that's why you would then need to know how much is Amazon competing with what they're doing. So you need to do a little bit of a competitive analysis, and the way that you would do that right, would be looking at, well, what do the experts say? Start to look at some of their reports. And again, the way you would kind of do this too, right, is, and going back to Brent's point here, of search by industry and see who the big players are in this case. I mean, it might be that Amazon's is it really a Irish company? I'm starting to think it might actually be an Irish company. It might not be just for tax purposes. They actually might be, oh wow. Oh, okay. So they actually bought really big brands then, because they bought Schlage, and Schlage is pretty well known in locks. Yeah, you're right. Wow. You've piqued my interest. Dude, this might be I wouldn't say a home run because it then sets you up for picking it automatically. But you've certainly piqued my interest, and I will guarantee you I will not look more into it just in case you pick it. Are you thinking you might pick it? Okay. I won't look more into it until I read something. If you do it. If you don't do it, I'll still read into it more. Then you could do this. Finally, too, for Brent here. If you want to do something with sustainability, you could almost pick any company. And on Yahoo Finance, they do a pretty good job of saying, like, how good is the company? Because look at two, even on the governance issue. Are they bullies as an employer, or are they well known? Like Under Armour, probably going to get a pretty low score for governance because the company is known as being full of bullies. That intrigues me and attracts me, but it might not attract other people to that kind of workplace. I guess the Michelles of the world are not like the bullies. Okay. Send me your ideas. If you want to pick something and you're thinking of something, send me an idea. I won't necessarily say don't do it or do it, but I will say, like, I will try. If I think you're going to go on a bad path, I might try to